All right, it's 6:30 on September 10th, 2018. This is a public meeting of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted in each building, the entrance doors at the ESC, and at the West Bend Community Memorial Library. A copy was also sent to the Daily News, WBKB, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources who have requested notice of our meetings. Deb, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
Great. Please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chris Swikert is out of town on business this evening, so we are down a board member. We've got a fairly full agenda for tonight. Hopefully board members have had a chance to review that, and I'll take a motion to approve.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Great, any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? Great. We've got an agenda, and we've come to the public participation portion of our meeting. Board Policy 187 prescribes the nature and procedures for this segment of our meeting. I will summarize the policy at this time, but copies of the policy are available in the back of the room, and I urge you to familiarize yourself with the policy in its entirety. Residents of the district, parents of children in the district schools, and employees of the district may participate. Participants desiring to address the board should obtain and complete a participant comment card near the entry and turn it over to the board president prior to the meeting or when allowed by the president. Participants may comment concerning an agenda item or non-agenda item. Each participant will be called to the podium and given 3 minutes to speak. The participant should state his or her name, address, and relation to the district. This information will appear in the minutes of the meeting. The board will not engage in debate concerning the remarks or take immediate action. The board may refer the matter to the superintendent, the committee, or take the remarks into consideration in future action. Board Policy 872 provides a formal process for citizen complaints, and Board Policy 520 provide a formal process for employee complaints. The board recommends use of these policies as they guarantee a fair and timely response. Our first speaker tonight is Mary Wigan.
Good evening, my name is Mary Wigand. I live at 5629 Calming Lane. And my relationship to the district is I am a former school board candidate. I'm the wife of a former school board member. I am a former parent of students, and I am currently a resident. I'm speaking on a follow-up issue of something I brought up at the August meeting about students in the Badger cafeteria looking at pornography and sharing it with other students. I did email 2 board members about it, and I'm still waiting for a response. I am looking for action on this, as Mr. Ongard, the policy he read just states that there can be action. Interestingly, for work, I had to do some modules on sex trafficking, and it talked about brain development in students, in kids ages 13 to 15 specifically, how they're at higher risk for risk-taking, they like immediate gratification, they're very impulsive, they don't have a lot of rational thinking, and that all kids are at risk at that age due to their ability to be manipulated, and that early sexual activity increases the risk for involvement in sex trafficking. This is a serious issue, and it's happening under our nose. Parents' trust is demolished when they can't trust what's happening with their kids at school, and other kids are being exposed to this vile website. It's a wake-up call. West Bend should be doing better. It's a very easy fix. I wonder what kind of foundation we're helping lay for marriages. What if your daughter were married to someone who was looking at pornography? It is a moral issue. It is a right and wrong. It's not just about choices, good versus bad. Someone's worldview will reign. Kurt, I remember when you were running for school board, you touted that you were a Christian. Are you courageous enough to bring that Christian worldview to the board as opposed to the one that permeates, and that would be secular humanism? I think it would be prudent to have a policy that no smartphones are allowed in schools, only flip phones. I found it interesting that our district technology guy, I can't remember his name, at a recent meeting this spring was talking about how he wants internet on the buses. What kind of type of oversight will that allow? The meetings aren't even live streamed. We have a multi-million-dollar budget. We have technology, wrong priorities in our technology. These meetings need to be live streamed. See if I covered everything. I have an article here I would like to share also about why cell phones don't belong in school. I only made one copy. I'll give it to you, and then you guys can look at it. I know we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We'll make copies of this for the board. Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? All right, we will move on to our action item section of our agenda, starting with the consent agenda. We've got minutes from our August 27th regular board meeting, disbursements posted to September 10th, ratification of a contract, and a couple of resignations. Any questions on the consent agenda? Otherwise, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Great. Motion and a second. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Great. Sharon, taking us through Head Start program.
Yes, I am here tonight to present the Program Information Report, which is an annual report that's required by Head Start, and it goes over the data from last school year. The actual report is 19 pages long, and I have given you a brief summary of the information. And today was actually the first day for Head Start. The first week of school, our teachers spend time connecting with families, so their first day was today, and everything went very well. So some overviews are the enrollment and program options. We served 135 students throughout the year, and some of those kids attended all school years, and some of them have moved in and out of the district. We also now have full-day programming for our 4-year-old students, which is the Head Start initiative. Parents can opt out of that by writing a letter to the program, and we had 4 families that requested half-day programming for their students. We also started a new program at the YMCA this year. The Head Start program is embedded with the 4-year-old kindergarten program, which provides some more opportunities for the children and the family at the Y. The enrollment for Head Start starts with the family income, and if they are below the poverty level, they are automatically included. We also ask families if they have public assistance, and we also include children in foster care or children of military are also given high priority. The remaining families were between 101% and 130% of the poverty level. Right now, the only students on the wait list are those who are above 130% of the poverty level, and we keep slots open for potential new enrollees as families move into the district. In our staff, we have employed 27 staff members. 3 of them are current or former Head Start parents, which is valued in the Head Start community since those parents are looking for employment. They also have a much better understanding of the lives of our young children. We have some employees who are partly employed through Head Start, and that includes myself and Matt Durant and some of the other coordinators at the district level. Lastly, the program includes 9 certified teachers and 9 assistants. And like I said, 2 of our employees are bilingual. They speak Spanish, and they connect with families. If we're not able to text with families, and they make direct contact with them. And we also are required to have a behavior coach who is one of our teachers. The services that we provide for family, there's a big connection between the district and the agencies within the community. We have 3 family advocates, and their roles to connect them with agencies who can support them. And again, we have abundance of agencies in West Bend, and that starts with the food pantry and goes to social services, the Albrecht Free Clinic, and many other supporters of the program. We also track immunizations, body mass, dental care, and mental health services, and parents are required to have dental and regular medical checkups. And we can provide that with them or for them through the Albrecht Clinic, now that they have dental services, which is a great support for our families. The number of children with continuous accessible dental care, as I said, was 119 students, and we served 128 families through that family services. every family who meets with the family advocate, they create goals for the year. So it might be that they complete the requirements for healthcare. It might be that they access training on childcare or how to support the academic needs of their kids. And during the school year, the team is focusing on the new performance standards. I believe there's 1,130 of them. So we take it a little bit at a time. And we're also planning for, again, integrating the program in Head Start with the 4K program and looking for more opportunities in the years to come. Any questions?
Awesome. Any questions for Sharon? Another great year of Head Start.
Yeah. Great things happening. Thanks. We do require a vote. That
I
it
move
is.
to approve the 17-18 Head Start Program Information Report.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion, questions?
Yep. Thank you.
If you all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the September 17th, 2018 annual meeting of the electors. A couple of things to talk about here. The agenda, the proposed budget, and the resolutions to be presented at the annual meeting. The annual meeting is next week on Monday up at the high school auditorium at, remind me again, registration at 6 o'clock and budget report at 6:30. Meeting starts at 7 o'clock. So quite a bit of stuff in the board packet as it relates to this action item tonight. It's not all that different than years past. I guess one thing we'll talk about later in our agenda tonight, but something to take a look at is setting the date of next year's meeting. We are proposing to go back to the fourth Monday in September for 2019. Technically, this gets voted on at the meeting next week, but that's what we are proposing to the electors. I don't know if Don or Karen had any more color to this action item, but.
Yeah, Don's going to start.
Okay. Don, are you starting on this
So I
one?
can Karen, well, just a little bit, Karen's going to present some information on, Karen is going to present some information on the preliminary budget. The four resolutions that are in front of you are all identical or very similar to last year. In resolution number 1, the numbers have been changed to reflect this year's budget. Resolution number 2, we're not proposing any individual sale of any individual property. Resolution 3 is we're not proposing that your per diem or the board expense goes up. And resolution 4 just sets the date for the 2019 annual meeting. So all four of them would be comparable to what we had last year and the last few years. And at that point in time, we're going to turn it back over to Karen, and she's going to talk a little bit about the preliminary budget.
So again, the preliminary budget is in the budget adoption format, and this is per DPI. So this is what we covered several months ago. So we're going to continue with this budget format throughout the year. The preliminary budget, you can see on the far right corner, shows that we will be using approximately $1.4 million of the fund balance in order to present a balanced budget for the 18-19 school year. We want to remind everyone that the board had previously approved spending of $1.8 million for 4K out of the fund balance, which was not used. And this does still leave us within the requirements. Right. So this does still leave us within the requirements of the 14 to 18% of expenditures for a minimum fund balance for the year. If we go down to the revenues, you can see our revenues are decreasing slightly. And this is due to enrollment declines and the loss of the hold harmless. Future forward, we are planning to strategically incorporate these changes into our planning. So when we have enrollment declines and we know that we are going to be facing a loss of a one-time adjustment, we will be incorporating those to capitalize on the temporary credits that we receive and adjust our operations and expenses to encompass the changes without any impact on our students. If we go down to the expenditures for Fund 10, you can see that the Fund 10 expenditures are increasing approximately $1.3 million from 2017. We're looking at this in total, so it's important to remember that our WUFAR coding is being refined in the 2018-19 school year. So we're moving forward in the district to improve our overall operations, strategic planning, and beginning with this school year, we're working to code all of our expenses, including salaries and benefits, to the appropriate WUFAR coding per the DPI guidelines and requirements. But taking a closer look then overall at the Fund 10 variance, the primary drivers are salaries, about $1.9 million. This includes the percentage of increase that was approved by the board, as well as open positions and slippage from 2017-18 being adjusted in the 18-19 school year, so budgeting for the full staff. Benefits are approximately $465,000. We have additional cuts that we are working to identify. We've identified by site, and now we will refine that in time for the final budget of approximately $120,000. We have a reduction of $1.4 million for the Fund 27 transfer. So Fund 27 is the special ed. For Fund 27, we have to net out to a zero, which means we take our revenues that we're expecting for our special ed and our expenses, and if there's any deficit in revenue, we have to fund that from Fund 10. We're anticipating approximately a reduction of $1.4 million of that funding from Fund 10 in the 18-19 school year. We also reduced the Fund 46, or eliminated the Fund 46 transfer for this year only of the $250,000, and that was approved by the board. Employee training is increasing by approximately $126,000. It's important that, while we're trying to improve the district, we want to make sure that all of our employees are at the level that we need so that we can service our students to the best of our abilities. Transportation is increasing by approximately $207,000. So the special ed transportation is a large portion of this due to increased insurance rates. So we had our prior carrier had his rates increase substantially. So we had the RFP and Johnson Bus quoted on it. Unfortunately, it still does increase their costs as well as increased gas and regular insurance for them. Workers' compensation is increasing by $106,000. This is based upon the experience ratio. Unfortunately, there were a few large claims, so hopefully if we can overcome those in the coming year, our rates can go back down. Software is increasing by approximately $89,000. And then technology, non-capital equipment is approximately $80,000 increase. That's for the one-to-one computers for the 5th grade. We will, however, be getting some funding for that to help offset some of those costs. Are there any questions on the other funds? Fund 27, again, zeroes out, same with Fund 29. Fund 38 and 39, that's for our long-term debt. So that's per the debt schedules, which have not changed. Recall we did pay off one of our long-term bonds. We made the advance payment to reduce the interest costs in this prior year. Fund 41 and 46 are our capital funds. Fund 50 is food service. And Fund 80, again, is the community services. Any questions?
Karen, thank you for all your work to put this budget together. I guess my one question is at the very bottom of the preliminary first page, and I had mentioned this to you in an email, and you responded, but I just wanted to clarify for the whole board, like that 260 central services, it's the first page of the
Yes.
expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a fairly large
Right.
difference from one year
So,
to the next.
so that's where it's important to remember, and I can go through these in detail with you if you'd like. We started actually detailing that out, and you would have hundreds of line items, and that's because of the reclassifications that we've had to do for a lot of the expenses in the 17-18 school year. And in the 18-19 school year, we are coding everything per DPI regulations and requirements. And so there's a lot of movement in between the funds. So that's why we took a look at the overall Fund 10 balance. So for example, all of the employees in the district, their benefits and their wages were coded to central services. Now those are all separated out. We also had manual timesheets, which would be if we have any aides or other people working in the schools and it's not going through the normal payroll system for Kronos, which is the timekeeping system that we use. Those manual timesheets were not coded to the individual departments, and when we're budgeting them, we're trying to break that out. But I'd be happy if you want to stop in at any time, we can bring it up and show you anything you'd like.
And it might be something that correlates to a budget workshop if we're hosting one in October, maybe getting a little bit more specific with the board as far as the our codes and the objects and sources, and that way when we look at it, we understand more what's detailed within each of these individual. Thank you.
In our first resolution, we have $38,500,008 as our district tax levy amount. Where is that on the sheet? Or how do you add up to get to that? Or if that's not the right number, then.
No, that's the correct
We
number.
want to make sure.
Just to bring up
I
those
want to say
spreadsheets.
last year, we had a couple of different versions before we got to our meeting and had to change some numbers, but.
So that is there, can I bring this up, Tim? I have it broken out already for you, so
Yeah, such
it'll be easier if I can just bring up this paper. It's not my dog, but it is a cute one. So the 38.5 consists of 31,925, 603 from the general fund.
Yeah.
Debt service, 4,974,160. Capital projects, 1,482,45, and the community fund of 120,000.
Okay. Any more questions? That's a good presentation there and kind of a dry run for next Monday, I suppose.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Unger, I just realized that the motion cites the wrong statute.
Okay,
I had put 085, it should read 985.
okay, thank you. Any more questions? Go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
Maybe a question for the superintendent. Go over the increases in the expenditures for instruction. And these numbers, they just don't ring true to what I had seen before. But if you could, I guess it's 1.9 million in increases for salaries, is that correct?
No, I don't believe that is correct. It's not 1.9, it's 1.1
Well, the 1.9 is overall, so that's not for the increases in the rates. The 1.9 includes the change from 17 to 18 where we had open positions as well as any overlap.
So, what is the increase in, I guess as you put it, the rate?
I believe it was in salaries only 907,000.
So is that where that 700, I think was 95,000 in the state, increased state aid, is that where that went for this increase or not? And then going back probably about 2 or 3 meetings ago, we had I think there was almost like $1 million, and 250 of that went to Coates Jackson Fund, and then there was some 700,000 plus that was going to be dedicated for other purposes. And is that where is the increase in the salaries? Is that where that went mainly?
In state aid, I'm sorry, I don't recall what you're saying about.
Increase in state aid.
In state aid.
It was like $200 per student that we got.
Okay, right, and that's, so you get the $200 per student, but then there's an entire spreadsheet that works through, and there's different components, and one of those components that had a big impact on us is that hold harmless cause. So when you have declining enrollment, the spreadsheet DPI designed the formulas so that you're not penalized as a district for your declining enrollment in that year, so that you have time to work toward determining how can we reallocate our resources, how can we change or adjust our operations to incorporate that reduction, but it's not a permanent fix. So we've lost that hold harmless. So while you get the increased $200 per student, we've lost the hold harmless. And so net, we don't come out ahead.
So Ken, if you look on the preliminary budget, we're anticipating last year $36,175,000 in state aid. This year, based on loss of hold harmless plus loss of another grant, we're at $34,784. And those numbers aren't definite yet because we'll have another couple of weeks of getting some information. So our state aid revenue for 2018-19 school year is actually, even with the $200 increase per student, we're anticipating about $1.6 million less in state aid for 2018-19 than we did in 17-18.
And I had another question, if I may. What is the general increase in the salary? How would you break that out as far as faculty and staff, et cetera?
At this point in time, I do not believe that they have negotiated with the teachers union yet, and so that would be premature in making that statement. And so that won't be available to negotiate in good faith. That number has to happen through negotiations.
I just see this as a sizable increase, so I question it.
Discussion, any more questions?
By our next meeting, or I don't know if I'll have data before the annual meeting, but certainly at our October meeting, I'll have a better idea of where our enrollment numbers are at. And so that at least as of today, we're up higher than what we had anticipated, but that's very preliminary. The problem is that even if the numbers go up, that doesn't necessarily equate to more state aid. And so that we're hoping that even though we have a potential decline in enrollments, it is not what we thought it was going to be. It's actually, our enrollment is a little higher than what we had anticipated, but those are very preliminary, and we won't know that until the third Friday in September when we actually do counting.
Any more questions as it relates to any of the resolutions, the agenda, the proposed meeting date for next year's meeting? Budget, does it all look good?
Well, just because I question the increase, that would be the reason I would vote no, because I assume if we vote in favor of these resolutions, we are in essence approving the budget as it is. Is that not correct?
You'll actually approve that this is just and so help me out because I'm new, but this is just a resolution to take to the annual meeting. And so that by the end of October, the 1st of November is when you will formally approve the budget as well as the tax request for the constituents of the West Bend School District. And so for tonight, that's all you're doing is proposing that these resolutions go before the annual meeting of the voters of the electorate next Monday. And so you won't formally approve the budget and the tax request until towards the end of October. Is that correct?
October 29th.
October 29th is when that has to happen. So tonight you're just presenting the information to go forward to the annual meeting.
Okay. Thing here. I will move to approve the agenda, proposed budget, and resolutions to be presented at the 1819 annual meeting of the electors and per Wisconsin State Statute 985.02, Section 2, approve the posting of the 1819 budget summary in at least one public place and electronically on the school district's website.
Second.
Motion and a second's been made. Any further discussions, questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign? None. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll see everyone next Monday night at the high school auditorium for the meeting of the electorate. We will now move on to the third reading of new board policy 345.61, early graduation. Looks like Laura Jackson's on her way.
Thank you. We are on the third reading of the early graduation policy. Are there any questions that have not been previously addressed?
I have a question. If a student wanted to submit a formal application to graduate early, where would they be instructed to go to get this application? Is it,
It'll be available in the guidance office.
so is this a new application, or have we always had this for the past decade?
We've had a process, and that was to go to your guidance counselor and talk to them. The paper document, I don't know how long it's been in place for.
Okay. I think one of the things with this policy is just good communication with the parents. Because we had that unique situation at Badger, we've had a number of students able to progress more quickly through their high school courses. And I think this is one thing I'd ask the board if you'd be interested in getting more data, trends. 2 years ago, how many kids were eligible to graduate as juniors in 15-16, the class of 16-17, how many of those were eligible to graduate, how many of those took the option. We know this year, well, I guess I should say 17-18, we had 3 students graduate early. However, how many students were actually eligible to graduate early? I anticipated it's a lot more than that, just based on my daughter's peer groups and the fact that as seniors, many of them could have graduated as juniors, but they stayed on to take AP courses and all these other kind of CTE options. I would think it'd be beneficial for the board to kind of track these graduation data. Who's eligible to graduate, who's choosing this option, who's coming back their senior year to invest more within the course options that are available. That was just the only thought I had. I agree we need a policy, we need a procedure, but I just wonder if we need some data to track along. Are kids graduating more early? If they're not graduating early, are they staying? What kind of avenues are they pursuing? What kinds of new opportunities have been presented? Especially since we're thinking about cutting back a lot of the Badger electives and honors programming that move advanced learners ahead a little bit more quickly. I just want to make sure that we have all the necessary information to move.
I'm sorry, I have to clarify my statement.
Yeah.
The form that I visualized as soon as you asked that question was not the form for early graduation. This is the first year we've had students who have, well, to my knowledge, that we've had students to asking to graduate after their junior year. Could we have, with our graduation requirement of 22 credits, potentially, if students had taken summer school and their full load, we could have had this for as long as we've had the 22 credit requirement for graduation. So they could potentially have, students could potentially have been eligible for early graduation after junior year without taking any advanced courses at the middle school level, high school courses at the middle school level. So based on our credit requirement, that opportunity always existed, we just didn't address it in policy. And so with the opportunity to graduate early, we have made accommodations for that and allowed that in the past, typically at semester. This just puts it all in place that once their graduation requirements are met, they could petition for that, or in anticipation of their graduation requirements being met.
But certainly since 2014-15, we've probably had an increase in the number of kids who could graduate because of the options that have been presented over the past 4 years between electives, social studies,
So
ELA.
those first students were juniors this past year that had that opportunity. So I'm not sure, and I don't know if I can check if our system is able to data mine to that level.
Any more questions? I move to approve new board policy 345.61, early graduation.
I second that.
Great, thank you. A motion and a second by Kurt. Any more discussion, questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to some deletion of policy 343.3 and 343.42.
So just a reminder, these policies, the state statute sunsetted the course options and the youth options as of June 30th of this year. So those opportunities no longer exist as they were in the past. They now exist as Start College Now and Early College Credit and Part-Time Open Enrollment.
Great. Any questions on these?
Yes.
My computer's froze, but I
The
think I
board
got
had
the motion.
previously approved the part-time open enrollment, the Start College Now, and the early college credit policies that are in our, in place.
Current policies, correct. I move to approve the deletion of board policies 343.3, enrollment and course options, and 343.42, post-secondary enrollment youth option courses.
Pardon me, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Is this the second reading?
This is
Yes,
the,
but you can do that. You can approve the deletion policies that way.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
I'll still second.
motion and a second by Nancy. Any more questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. Thank you very much. We're going to move to another quick little item here. This is our board calendar. Last year, we, during the annual meeting, made a change to go from the fourth Monday to the third Monday of September. And with some confusion along the way, we posted our board calendar with the incorrect date of the annual meeting. So our current board calendar says that the annual meeting is in 2 weeks and not next week, but it is in fact next week. So all we are doing here is correcting our own board calendar by moving the date of the annual meeting to its correct date.
I move to approve the change to the 2018-19 board calendar showing the date of the annual meeting of electors as September 17th, 2018.
Great, motion and a second by Connie and Nancy. Any questions, discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion passes. Thank you. We will then move on to, we'll have Ralph Schloss, Principal Schloss, come up to make a nice new introduction here.
Well, thank you, everyone, and good evening. Before I introduce the new athletic director at Westman West High School, I just want to talk about the process a little bit. On August 25th, I received a phone call when I was out of the city from Brian Highmark informing me he was going to resign his position because he was taking a new job. While I was disappointed, I was not altogether entirely surprised, but I was concerned that at that date that we'd have a difficult time finding quality candidates. However, with the help of Dave Hammelman, who was really instrumental in helping me with this whole process, we got a posting out there really quickly, and in a little over a week's time, we had over 30 quality candidates. It was a rich and deep pool of people who, a lot of them have experience as athletic directors. They might be in other school districts, smaller ones looking to move into a bigger school system, or they wanted the challenge of working with more programs, things of that nature. So what we did then is Dave and I rated the candidates. We narrowed down our list, and then we started calling some people and brought them in for our first round of interviews. Erin Felber here was one of those people who came in, and then she progressed to a second round of interviews. And at that second round of interviews, we had community members, business leaders, students, coaches, other administrators. So we had the whole gamut of people there to assist in asking the questions and getting to know these candidates. And they were very favorably impressed with the people that we brought in. We brought in 3 people. We hoped to bring in 4. One candidate backed out. He just felt like he wouldn't do his current school system justice if he had left so late in the game, and we respected that decision. But the name that kept coming up over and over and over again, even before I met her, was Erin Felber. Erin's got a lot of friends who are pulling for her, but I also know people in education and in the industry, and I reached out to people at Nicolay High School who I know who had worked with Erin and said, tell me a little bit about Erin Felber. She's one of my candidates, and her resume is very impressive. And they said, go get her. They said, you need her. She is an up-and-comer. She is a superstar in the making. So I want to share with you, the decision then was made to offer Erin the position a couple of 2-3 weeks ago. But before we did that, we did a plus delta after our round of interviews with everyone. We did this for all the candidates, and this is just what some people said about Erin. Erin is enthusiastic and she has energy. We love her innovative ways to get the community involved. She knows how to fundraise. She's passionate, she's creative. Her answers had substance. She's good at starting programs from nothing. She's not afraid to fail. In other words, she takes chances, not recklessly, of course, but she has started a lot of programs and done some things at her old districts that were very successful. She's got the pedigree to be a superstar as an athletic director. She's collaborative with the community, with peers, and I'm finding that out. She knows more people in the North Shore Conference than I can ever imagine. I bring up people by first name, and she's like, oh, that's so-and-so, he was my teacher, he was my coach, all this other stuff. We were looking for someone who might have a background, really in education, have a master's degree as a principal, and she does. So she manages by fact and uses a lot of research and data to inform her decision making, and she's got experience hiring coaches. She was also a college coach herself. She was an exceptional athlete as a youth. We were very, very fortunate to offer Erin the position and have her accept. Erin comes to us from the Maple Dale Indian Hill School District, where she was a FIA teacher and the athletic director. And before that, as I mentioned, she was also a teacher at Nicolay High School. So, one last thing I'd like to mention, Erin is also the first female athletic director in West Bend, East and West End. East and West Bend. We weren't looking for that, but it just so happened she is. We were looking for the best candidate, and she clearly was. And in fact, it was pretty unanimous amongst all of us. So here's Erin Felber to tell us a little bit about herself.
Thank you. So I'm absolutely humbled and appreciative, and I'm excited and ready to go. Honestly, these past 2 weeks, everybody's been so kind and so welcoming. So obviously, change can be hard, but the transition's been great, and I'm excited to get to know the community, get to know the students, and hope to be here for a very long time. So, thank you. Any questions at all that I can answer? I think Ralph summed it up.
I like to talk, Aaron.
Well, welcome, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Can I just add one more thing? I just want to also just publicly thank Denny Ziegler, was carrying a lot of the load, also in the absence of a West Athletic Director. Brian left us in really good shape, but nonetheless, Denny deserves some public recognition. He was very busy, but he stopped what he was doing and he said, listen, anything I can do to help. And the same goes for Barb Breyer, the administrative assistant in athletics. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, thanks for being here. All right. Sharon and Jill. Juvenile Detention Center Program update.
So I'm Jill Corbett, and I'm one of the special ed coordinators for secondary education here. And every year, I don't know how many of you guys know, but we have a school within our Washington County Juvenile Detention Center, since it is housed in West Bend, and we are responsible for that. And every year, we are asked to do an annual report and update to the Sheriff's Department and all local agencies that have a part in the Juvenile Detention Center. What I thought was interesting is we don't share this with you guys. So I had kind of talked to Sharon about sharing some of this information with you because we have, in the last 2-3 years, really tasked our teachers and our staff with not only addressing the core math, reading, science, social studies, but really looking at these students and what their needs are. And so I wanted to share just a little bit about our programming over there so that people have a better view, because I'm guessing most of you don't go for a visit. So first is just our staff. We have 4 people over there. We have a regular education teacher, special education teacher, instructional tech, and aide that also helps. These ladies will serve all the students that are ages 10 through 17 that are in our juvenile detention center. We also are responsible for all kids who are still eligible for high school education upstairs. They're aged 17 to 20 or 21, depending on their special ed or non-special ed status. We typically run a school year like everyone else. It's 8 to 2:30. We follow the West Bend school calendar. Our teachers do the same professional development as everyone else. We do have extended school year, so our teachers are asked to work all of June. Once the teachers are done, usually on that June 8th time, our teachers work from 8 to 2, just take out that half an hour. We also, a couple years ago, added what's called an extended school year for summer, and we also have different staff in there all of July. We did this because there was a big gap in services, July and August. The Sheriff's Department said they just felt the pressure of trying to get these kids out of their cell for 6 hours, and really education was really the key thing that was needed. So we do come in and work from 8 to 12 all of July. So the only time our presence is not there is really in August. Yes, that's it. Next slide. I promise. So this is kind of an overview of from 2015 to 2018 in the months where we stand. I will say right off the bat, our numbers have gone down. Some of that is political, based on where our students are coming from and collaborations with our Sheriff's Department. But on average, you will see this. So this is an average. We took all the numbers and kind of averaged it out. And you look at it and you're like, 6 kids here, that doesn't seem like much. These are pretty 6 kids who don't want to be where they are. So trying to educate them from 8 to 2:30, you have to get creative. And sometimes we have kids that are in the facility but are by court order not allowed to be in the same room, or they're not allowed to pass each other. So we're usually tasked with some pretty interesting rules and regulations. On the right side, you will see our adults. That is kind of the total that we were serving that year. Again, most of our adults will serve longer time. So that number, although maybe it doesn't seem like a lot to have 16 in 1 year, a lot of those 16 were there for a long, long time. And our instructional tech and our teacher, one teacher floats up there, the instructional tech is up there 4 to 5 hours a day. And we have to be very strategic because we cannot have boys and girls together. So it's kind of like I take you for some time, in and out kind of situation. But we have had several kids that we were able to graduate or work collaboratively with their school district to finish up their credits.
Jill, can I just ask?
Yeah.
Are these adult students working to get their GED?
No.
Or are they-
They're still school-age students, so if they're adult age going for their GED, they would work with the jail has their own program through Rain Park Technical College. We only take kids 17 and a half to 20 that are still eligible for their high school diploma. So we are going specifically that route. We go through age 21 if they're students with special education needs. There. We've been really lucky. We have a lot of school districts that are pretty collaborative that will let us know what they need and go from there. This is just to kind of give you an idea of where they all come, where our students come from. So these are all the counties that we serve. And as you can see, there are big differences. Kenosha was our #1 county that we served several years ago. They're now 3rd, 4th. And that's primarily because they, because of pricing and everything, and Racine is closer, they have contracted more with Racine. We are responsible for all Waukesha girls that are school-aged. We do tend to get all the Waukesha, that's our main. And then as far as the other counties, we're usually an overflow. So just kind of to go into like just explaining. Again, we do our math and our English and our science and social studies every day. Because we have multi-age classrooms, it is creative. We try to follow certain standards, or we'll break the kids into a little bit of grouping of ages as much as we can. But truly, in order to engage these students, we have to get some more hands-on stuff and meaningful. This is just one of the things, just trying to show that we try to do some science experiments in the classroom, more hands-on than just reading it. We've also added a couple different things. One thing we added was personal finance, employability skills, and we really asked the community to kind of get involved in this. And we brought in some really nice speakers to come and talk about jobs, how to get a job, how to obtain a job, curriculum that might help them in the future. Junior achievement has come in, which comes into a lot of our classrooms, which has been fantastic. But if you look on the right, this person from MPTC, out of the goodness of her heart, came in to talk about cosmetology and brought mannequins for the girls to work on and play with, talked about the challenges of it, how long schooling is, trying to get them to connect why education is important to them, even when they're in this type of setting. Why, when you leave, are we asking you to be a better person? Some of the other people that came in was someone for welding, again, trying to get some of these kids that are more hands-on. We also had Spalding Clinic, Seek, Bob Fish, Sarah Lab Tech, and a paramedic that came in to speak to the students. We also tried to have speakers come in from the community that actually had a message that the kids could relate to. The Love Hay Project was about relationships. That the father coming and speaking about his own tragedy of his daughter dying at the hands of a boyfriend. These kids can relate. They live in some trauma and really kind of felt his pain and what it feels like to lose someone. So it's interesting when you watch these kids that come in acting very tough, kind of really soften and respect what's happening. One of our teachers is an animal fanatic, and she has a nice hobby farm at her house and really believes in caring for all and showing empathy. She often will bring in pets, and these are just a few of them that she brings in for the kids. And again, if you want to see teenagers melt, bring a big fluffy rabbit and they're even responsible for the day to go pick up the droppings and clean the cages and everything, and they are ecstatic about it. They get so sad when the animals leave. We've even brought in miniature horses. They don't really have these opportunities outside of here, so it has been a really great addition. We like to give back to the community as much as we can, again, to show them that if you're part of a community, you don't just take, you give back. This just shows as they made placemats for the Harvest House, explaining to them what the Harvest House is and how it serves people that a meal that might possibly not have a meal. And they were ecstatic. not only to do the art project, but they wanted to know how everyone liked it, how many people came. They also made origami for some of the little kids to put on the tables as well. One of the other service projects we've done for the community, we worked with a church and we took the bags and we have made sleeping mats for the homeless. And the thing is, the whole point was about empathy and giving back, but really, even the physical piece of this and them trying to do this, it has been such a good therapy, and the kids sit and they talk to each other, they're appropriate, they're excited to share what they make, and it does help pass them the time. That's not just paper pencil. We've also gotten into making dog treats for Humane Society, lunch trays for Children's Hospital. We did letters to veterans as a writing project, and we are currently trying to knit infants' hats for Children's Hospital. Our teachers are diligently trying to learn how to do it in order to teach it. So we have all the product, we are just in the process of learning as well. We tried to bring in some world culture items. Students cannot have any of this stuff in their cell, but if they make something with us, we do ask them if they'd like to take it with them when they leave. And it is amazing. One of these things was a dream catcher that they made. How many of the kids asked to have it put in their locker to please take with so they could show their parent or a friend or a relative after they left. Again, and then just kind of talk about different cultures, what that means to them. Last year we added culinary skills, and we did that because we would, well, first of all, none of the kids like food, but we also did it because it is something they will constantly talk about. They don't know how to cook, they don't know how to take care of themselves, they always talk about eating out of more fast food. So we kind of started taking that, saying, hey, you know what, let's be realistic. What can we teach them that they might have in their possession? So the kids make everything from a budget to how much they're going to need and what they're going to make. And it's very interesting, we've done anything from crock pot meals. We don't have a stove, so we have to be very creative. We have a microwave, we have a crock pot, we have a bunch of different utensils, and all of it, I just have to say, has been donated. One of our teachers put on Facebook that she wanted to start this and really teach some life skills, and the amount that we got in was amazing, so we're very happy. But kids have really learned and they're excited. They even ask the guards if they want to come and have lunch when they make something they really are proud of. So we've done everything from desserts, as you can see, to actual meals. And again, they also then break it up and talk about budget, like how many people did it feed, how much did it really cost us per meal, so they can be more realistic when they leave. This is what the rec room, and what we started doing this year is we started talking about different symbols and representations in cultures, and they got the idea to say, hey, what do you represent? So obviously with being very strategic and making sure everything's appropriate, kids are allowed to pick a symbol that represents them at this time of life, and we do allow them to paint it on the wall. We are also bringing in an artist this year that's going to help guide this and potentially make even a bigger thing. But it's kind of neat just to see the different things of how they feel about themselves and what they think represents themselves. Again, kind of looking at those life skills and budget, we brought in sewing machines and we purchased some cheap fabric, and we asked everyone to make pillowcases. We never realized how important a pillowcase was. Over half the kids that made them said they've never had a pillowcase. The other half said, well, I don't really have a pillow, like I have just a small one, but would I be able to fold this in half? Every one of the kids wanted to take this home and show what they made. They were so proud of them. I think just that step back again and just what it means to do more than just sit in the desk. One of the projects we also had, Humane Society themselves brings in and talks about the importance of care for animals and some of the dangers that happens outside, and just again, kind of a lot of it revolves around anger and where to express your anger, not to hurt animals. We have FIAD 3 times a week at our facility. We have people come in and do physical activity with that. But our teachers really believe that the kids need some movement during the day. They don't really get very far. So they started this, they'll put in videotapes and just do some kickboxing or yoga. But one of the favorite things to do is competitive Foursquare, and if you are ever there, it is hilarious because I think the teachers are louder than the kids. They get very excited, but it's kind of neat. The guards join in. Sometimes they have outside agencies that might be there that will play a game, and the kids just think it's really neat. Again, we're talking about morale boosters. We continuously try to give positive messages to the kids and talk about the importance of positive messages, as well as when you've done good things, you kind of should get things back. The treat is one of the things that they kind of came up as a group for being very positive that week and working hard. It was probably one of the most exciting things for them to get dessert. This is just our summer school staff. Again, they are charged with, when they come in July, I always ask them to please consider, every day we do math and language arts, but outside of that, we really do character education and life skills. So they too will tend to try to go in those areas of teaching life to these kids. This is a service dog that comes with Miss Nadeau, and I will tell you, it was a room mascot, and the kids absolutely would do anything to be in that classroom with that dog. We have Art Cycle that comes in once a week. There's our art teacher who comes in, but she tries to make everything have meaning, a deeper meaning about getting feelings out. So this is a couple of projects that the kids have partake in. We often display them not only in the classroom, but if you ever walk into the Washington County Jail, we do have some displayed from the students that we're very proud and gave permission. We also have Therapeutic Drumming that comes in every week, and this is a replacement of music. We have Therapeutic Drumming. It's pretty neat. It gets a little loud, but it's pretty neat, some of the sounds that they come up with. And just seeing some of these kids, how they react and calm down with it. This is one of the physical education teachers that come in to teach. We have a strength and stretch with Beth. We call it stretch with Beth because we used to call it yoga, and all the boys said, I'm not doing yoga. So now we call it stretch with Beth, and it seems to be a little more perceived in a positive manner. This is Luann. She comes and does cardio with the kiddos twice a week. So again, we do a stretching and we're calm into more physically active. Looking ahead for this year, again, we're always constantly trying to be creative and what can we bring to the students that may not get in a typical classroom. And again, we are really looking at how do we bring real life into the classroom. We have purchased simulators for the shaken baby syndrome with curriculum. And we do think this is really important. We do tend to have a lot of kids come in that we often have at least several students that are pregnant, or students that talk about little siblings that they help take care of. So we just thought this was a really good topic for them to partake in. We also have purchased an electrical wiring kit, really to work on some of the electrician minimal starting point, but kind of talking not only the science part of it, but the more hands-on. And then we also have purchased a sustainable food system. We are going to be growing some plants and our own gardening and then using that to cook with. Trying to, again, bring in what they could do outside themselves. This is also, we have youth and family come in not only after hours, but once in a while for special projects during hours. And again, this is really helping them work on stuff that they're not used to. A lot of times they take feedback from the students on what are their family's needs, that hence the pillows in the corner. That was one of the needs the kids came up with. Hopefully, like I said, I think it's important to know what's going on in the district, and those ladies do a fantastic job and have brought a lot of creativity. Any questions?
Not a question so much as I guess a couple of comments. I want to thank you, Jill, and your staff for all the work that you do with these young people and their vulnerable, I guess, stage in their life, unfortunately. And I see a lot of creativity. It's phenomenal. And using the art therapy, the pet therapy, all the other innovative things that you've done, and working with the students to give them the personal life skills and hopefully also help them turn their lives around. So I'm sure the whole board would like to extend their appreciation to you. And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I wanted to add that the district is reimbursed at 105% for any costs at the juvenile detention center.
That does bring up something. What about the students that do we serve from the other, I guess, counties? How is their education and so on funded? I mean, are we picking it, is the West Bend School District picking up the entire tab, or how's that?
Yes, and the juvenile detention facility bills the other counties, and that's kind of some of the nuances of where the children are coming from, because there's sometimes bidding competitions, and so the facilities across the state don't all charge the same amount. So if Kenosha is placing children in our center, they're charged daily rate, and then our juvenile detention facility incorporates that into our staffing, and then we are reimbursed from the state for any children who are in our facility.
Mr. President, how long typically are the students in the program? Is there a 20 days and around 30? What's the average in and out for a year?
So right now for Washington County, it's anywhere between 1 hour we could have a kid, just waiting in court, to about 6 months. Because we do not have a courtyard or outside, they cannot serve over 180 days in our juvenile detention center unless special circumstances come up, I guess, and then they have to create how the child gets outside time. Typically, we have kids ranging about 30 days.
Any more questions? Great presentation. I echo what Mr. Schmidt said. I think these kids are lucky to have you and the staff that you have over there. It's a very good program. Thank you. I'm going to move on to our committee report. We had a policy meeting earlier tonight. Chris Schweiert is the chairman of that committee. We had a meeting without him, but Tiffany Larson and I are on that committee. We were there, and then Tony Schmidt joined us. We talked about 5 different policies. All of these will be brought forth next board meeting in 2 weeks, and they're all 5 fast-track policies, which means we're simply updating things like grammar and spelling, and the changes have absolutely no effect to what the policies are and how they are supposed to govern. We did and do want to recognize that a couple of these policies relate to school safety. One of them is called bomb threats, and the other one is called law enforcement agency relationship. These policies we anticipate will come back to the policy committee for a probably pretty extensive overhaul. But for now, we're fast tracking the small things to get them updated. In fact, I think that bomb threat policy has a date on it of 1975 or something like that. So you'll see those come at our next board meeting. We also talked about the policy committee charter, and we will proceed with updating that charter because we do have a policy committee, and so that will be some changes to the charter and direction of the policy committee. Turn it over to Superintendent Kirk. Go ahead.
Just a couple quick comments. Just a reminder, we have the annual meeting next Monday, and so it'll be a new venture for me because I've never had one quite like that before, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. I had a CISA meeting last Friday in Oshkosh, and so excellent group of superintendents and administrators. There were about 32 in attendance, and so it was an opportunity for me to dialogue and to visit with some of my colleagues. There's a new superintendent's meeting in Madison next week that I will be attending, not necessarily because I'm new, but there's a lot of different things with the budget, and Wednesday is all on budget, so I'm excited to attend and hopefully become a little bit more familiar with the budget process. I mentioned before enrollment numbers, and so when we have our October meeting, I'll give you where we're at with our enrollment. I've been trying to attend staff meetings, visiting with the new school, or visiting all the schools. Tomorrow I'm going to be at McLean, was at Silverbrook this afternoon, and so hopefully we'll have all of the schools visited and attended one of their staff meetings in the next couple weeks. And then just a last quick comment about objectionable material in our schools, the West Bend district would be like every district in the state of Wisconsin. That we receive funds from E-rate, and as a result of those funds, we all have to have specific guidelines in place that will regulate the content of our materials. And does that mean to say that sometimes there's inappropriate content? Certainly there is, I know that. But our district, whether it would be similar to Madison or Milwaukee or Appleton or Slinger or any other district, we all have filters in place, we have servers in place. There's specific software that does everything we can to monitor inappropriate sites, inappropriate material. And so I would just reiterate to the board that we would be similar to every district, and we truly try to do everything we can to prevent it. If something does come through, then our administrators will address it very firmly and quickly and take care of that. And so just a comment to the board.
I would think that that's not a failure of our filter system, but someone like using their phone on data, they're completely bypassing the Wi-Fi.
All of our machines have software attached to them that does everything it can to prevent it from happening. And kids are very creative, and I'm not suggesting that there aren't ways sometimes that kids will get around it, but for the most part, we do everything we can, just like every district in the state does, to make sure that doesn't happen.
Great, thank you very much. I'll quickly walk us through our board calendar, like Superintendent Kuekkegaard said, and I'll say it again tonight. The annual meeting, the 99th annual meeting of the electors is next Monday night up at the high school auditorium. Registration starts at 6 o'clock, the public hearing on the budget at 6:30, and then the meeting itself at 7 o'clock. Our next school board meeting is not in 2 weeks, it's on October 8th, it's in 3 weeks. That'll be at 6:30 here, and we will potentially have a policy meeting that night. Action items, have some head start things, and then it looks like our next meeting after that will be on October 29th. So our board meetings in October are on the 8th and the 29th. The 29th has the certification of the levy on it. So kind of a big meeting there, obviously after the annual meeting of the electors next week. To all you high school kids here tonight, thank you for coming. You've lucked out that it's a fairly short meeting, and if you need us to sign papers, any one of us sitting up here can sign your papers. That's all we have. Is there any questions, further follow-up items? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion and a second, Nancy and Mr. Schmidt. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Have a good night.